Hi, this is Nicholas Bell with IONCINEMA, here to review The United States versus Billie Holiday. It's a return to narrative filmmaking for Lee Daniels, who was last seen due to Empire with Lee Daniels the Butler back in 2013. It will be available to stream February 26, 2021 on Hulu. Prior to the pandemic, of course, it was a major property at Paramount. The studio that, of course, owns the rights to Lady Sings the Blues, the 1972 Oscar-nominated film which starred Diana Ross as Billie Holiday. This time around it's singer Andra, who has had bit roles in things and voice work, but this is ostensibly her debut as Billie Holiday. So it starts out in 1957 New York, where her star has faded considerably, and she's about to be interviewed by Reginald Lord Devine, a very flamboyant character played by Leslie Jordan, who's styled kind of like Margaret Rutherford in Blithe Spirit. He asks some disparaging questions of her. There's some, she's her right-hand man per se is played by Miss Lawrence, who, come to find, has been with her for years. We back up 10 years prior to 1947 and kind of learn about how, of course, her considerable drug addiction issues with heroin, and how the FBI was using that to bring charges against her for narcotics use, but really as a ploy for her to stop singing her song Strange Fruit, which is a signature track that she is and always will forever be known for, which is of course about lynching. The FBI was afraid J. Edgar Hoover, once again, has his hand in a lot of terrible things, believing that her singing the song and performing it will cause civil unrest. So of course she's arrested, serves a year and a day in prison, and then is released. The rest happened because she, among other addictions, also has a healthy appetite for young handsome men that come calling her way even when she's married. And Trevante Rhodes plays Jimmy Fletcher, who's an undercover FBI agent, one of the first black men to have that position. He thinks he's doing the right thing. His mother makes him realize that what Billie Holiday represents is more important than her drug issues, and he's already smitten and enamored by her. So after she gets out of prison, he's basically feeding her information about how the FBI is continuing to try to plant information on her. They eventually become lovers. She can't stay sober. She leaves him for Louis, who's played by Rob Morgan, the same character that Billy D. Williams plays in Lady Sings the Blues. And we watch this progression as her star is on the wane a decade later, and she died at the age of 44 of cirrhosis in 1959. So if you've not had any kind of introduction to Billie Holiday, unfortunately this is the kind of film that really depends too heavily on her drug addiction issues and doesn't quite depict them in a way that shows the devastation and impact that it has on her life. Of course, yes, we fast forward to when she dies, when it's appropriate for the film to end, but it doesn't quite chart that territory the best way. And oftentimes it feels like this would have been more significant if it was a film about Strange Fruit than it was Billie Holiday. The book it's based on, by Johann Hari from 2015, was adapted by Suzan-Lori Parks, who also wrote Spike Lee's Girl 6. She adapted a recent Zora Neale Hurston adaptation with Their Eyes Were Watching God, which starred Halle Berry, and also a contemporization of Native Son, the Richard Wright novel. Unfortunately, it just rushes through some things and has kind of a strange emphasis on certain details that kind of bring your attention to how everything else seems a little bit off tonally. It's not that they don't get the period of the late 40s per se, it's just that there are things that tonally seem off. Like we're going for comedy at scenes where it should be more sweat-induced desperation. And And for that reason, it sometimes feels kind of like a television production more than it would a theatrical feature, if we're splitting hairs per se. That said, Andra Day gets the likeness of Billie Holiday down quite a bit. The voice work, I think, is superb. There are some distracting choices in the supporting cast, although I'll say Miss Lawrence was not one of them. In fact, he gets one scene that I think he sells quite well. Diana Ross, her son Evan Ross, shows up in a thankless role. It just seems kind of an unnecessary nod. And Trevante Rhodes at times feels styled to look like Billie D. Williams, so we're kind of conjuring that energy. It really falters on showcasing, well, not that we need to have interiority for the FBI agents pursuing her, but Garrett Hedlund feels very stiff in a throwaway role that needed to have some kind of other angle to show his obsession with her beyond being clearly just racist. Overall, I would give The United States versus Billie Holiday 2 out of 5 stars. Thank you.
Hey, this is Erik from IONCINEMA.com. If you want to support us, subscribe below. For more reviews, interviews, film festival coverage from Sundance, Cannes, Toronto, you want to check out these guys on this side.